3-eye atlas keeps revealing mysteries we never anticipated. Notice how something resembling a tail appears to be taking shape. The truth is, scientists can't quite explain why.
Have you ever thought that maybe someone or something is watching us? Not a moon or a planet, but something very old, very big, and from a different star. It's called 3-eye atlas, and it breaks all the rules we know about space. It's bigger than mountains and faster than rockets. Some people think it's a rock. Some people think it's a message. No matter what it is, don't blink. You're about to discover why NASA is so scared. The object that shouldn't be here. It started out in the background, like a million other tiny dots. The Atlas telescope in Hawaii was the first to see it. It was a moving dot that was far away, dim and almost unnoticeable. They wrote it down and kept track of it, and for a short time they thought it was normal. It was then time for the numbers. The object was trying to get away from our sun, not going around it. Its orbit wasn't a circle, it was a straight line. That only meant one thing. It wasn't from our solar system. They gave it the name 3-eye atlas and called it the third visitor from another star system. Not just where it came from, though. What made it different from all the other space travelers was what it did next. The paths of most comets are steep and unpredictable, like stones skipping across a pond. The 3-eye atlas didn't. It went almost straight through the ecliptic plane, which is the disc-shaped space where Earth, Mars, and the other planets circle. The difference was only 5 degrees. The alignment was so perfect that there was only a 0.5 million chance that it was a mistake. To give you an idea of how unlikely that is, try flipping a coin 19 times in a row and getting heads. Then there was how fast it was. 3-eye atlas was going through the solar system at 124,000 miles per hour, which was faster than anything people have ever built. It would take less than 12 minutes to go around the Earth. Even though it was moving at such a high speed, it wasn't tumbling or drifting off track. Moving steadily and smoothly, it seemed to be moving for a reason. Scientists were shocked when they found out how heavy it was. 73 quadrillion pounds sterling. That's about 6 million times heavier than the most powerful rocket ever made. SpaceX's Starship. In the grand scheme of things, that's like finding a rock floating through space. Usually, comets this big leave behind a mess of dust, gas, and ice jets that shoot into space and throw other objects off path like fireworks in space. Not this one, though. The orbit never changed. Even though the surface let out clouds of gas, nothing could move it. It was almost like its weight was so heavy, or its structure was so well designed, that nothing could move it. That was the first sign that 3-eye atlas didn't make sense. A Harvard scientist named Avi Loeb and others quickly pointed out that there isn't even enough stuff in interstellar space to build something this big.
Or it will broadcast some signal, or it will have some artificial lights.
Every model we know of says that smaller pieces, like tiny bits of rock or dust, should get to us long before a huge object like this one. Some of the smaller ones are missing, though. It was like this giant showed up all at once, skipping the whole normal order of formation. That's why experts named it the thing that shouldn't be there. Statistics show that it can't happen. It's not just rare. It shows properties that can't be explained by chance, route points that look like they were planned, and lines of data that beg the impossible question: who or what sent this thing? Astronomers checked everything several times over for months, including the tools, the math, and even the way the binoculars were set up. The numbers didn't change, though. The object stayed on its exact path and moved through the solar system as if it knew where it was going. The biggest telescopes in the world were now keeping an eye on it. A lot of science teams from NASA, ESA, and Harvard looked at every wavelength of light it reflected. And that strange light leads us right to the next big discovery, the one that changed everything we thought we knew about how the universe works. The light that lied. Comets have stuck to one easy rule for thousands of years. When sunlight hits their dust, it spreads out in a predictable way. The light's polarization changes because of this scattering, and every comet that has been studied shows the same pattern. The polarization changes to positive when the viewing angle is wide, which means the light waves are aligned in a straight line. It's one of the most reliable fingerprints in science. It shows what comet dust is made of, how it feels, and how it behaves. That mark was gone when 3I Atlas came along.
3I Atlas keeps revealing mysteries we never anticipated.
Scientists were expecting to get familiar readings when they measured the light that it reflected. Instead, they found something that couldn't be true. Negative polarization with a phase angle of 6.4 degrees and a polarization of minus 2.77%. The outcome wasn't just strange. It had never happened before. There has never been an asteroid, comet, or dust cloud in our solar system that gave back a value like that. It looked like the light had turned around and gone in the wrong direction, which goes against every physical model used to explain reflection. Polarization is more than a number. It tells you what something is made of. The dust around 3I Atlas couldn't be the soft, fluffy stuff that we see around normal comets for the number to be negative. It had to be more reflective, sharper, and harder. It might have been metallic or crystalline, like a material that had been made instead of formed. Microstructures on the surface could even be there. This is what scientists call a metamaterial design, and it can bend or twist light in ways that nature never does. That's why Michio Kaku called it terrifying. Not because it's dangerous, but because that reading makes me think of intelligence. The idea that the object's surface isn't random, but planned. If the light acts in a different way, it might be because it was supposed to. It caused a stir in the science community. Some blamed bad equipment or mistakes in the alignment. Some people said it was a black swan, which is a scientific oddity that shouldn't exist but does. Still, the result of each recalibration was the same. The numbers stayed the same, and the mystery grew. Avi Loeb of Harvard said that anyone who says 3I Atlas is natural now has to explain 7 different problems without using design, which is a task that no one has met. Scientists then had a scary thought. If the light isn't telling the truth, it could be because the item wants to hide what it really is. But when binoculars looked at it again to try to figure out what was going on, they saw something even stranger. The silence. The day that telescopes on Earth had been waiting for finally came. It was only 18 million miles away from Mars, which is close enough for orbiters and rovers to record events as it happened. It was the only thing that could be seen from all of the big observatories. This was the only way for people to get a good look at the strange interstellar visitor and finally find out what it was. The Perseverance rover saw something strange in the sky of Mars. A thin, slanted streak moving faster than any satellite. It was bright, but the path it took looked uneven, like it was pulsing. They ruled out stars, cosmic rays, and tracks of space junk. It was different from anything they had seen before in how it behaved. Then, all of a sudden, the information stopped coming in. During the same week, the US government shut down, which stopped all of NASA's public services. The Near-Earth Object Feed, the JPL Horizons database, and even the Mars image files were all taken down. The normal flood of telemetry and observation logs stopped coming in for days. It felt like the live stream of the universe had been turned off. At first, people thought it was because of red tape and spending delays in the digital world, but the timing made people wonder. It was almost exact that the blackout started when the 3I Atlas got closest to Mars. This was the one moment that scientists had been planning for since it was found. Some people called it a fluke. Some people called it control. Europe's equipment stayed awake while NASA's went silent. Mars Express and ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter, both run by the European Space Agency, kept working on their missions. Their measurements showed a faint halo of ionized gas moving around 3I Atlas.
From European Space Agency, where they have now shared the first ever close-up image of the 3I Atlas.
However, it didn't behave in a way that fit any known comet coma model. It looked like something inside the cloud was moving it, because it wasn't moving in a smooth, steady way. One expert at the ESA said it was physically inconsistent with known outgassing behavior. The phrase quietly got around in company reports, but it never made it to public news releases. The experts were confused not only by the cloud's shape, but also by its rhythm. When comets are heated by the sun, they always respond in the same way. Bursts of vapor rise and then fade. but 3I Atlas's emissions seemed to be timed, oscillating at exact times, like they were following a rhythm. There were some who thought it might be an internal shift. Others talked in whispers about a mechanical force controlling the flow. At the same time, online groups sprang up. There was a trend on social media for days with terms like hashtag #NasaHideThe and hashtag #MarSSAUITFIRST. Forums were full of blurry pictures and images that weren't fully decoded by amateur astronomers who said they had found signs of the object moving above Mars's horizon. Some people even said that the streak that Perseverance saw wasn't a comet tail at all, but something glowing inside. NASA didn't say anything. Temporary network disruptions due to government shutdown operations was their stated reason. There was a lot of talk, but the silence didn't help. This was the first time in years that a public space agency went dark during a big celestial event, and it couldn't have happened at a worse time. When the info finally came back, it was broken up. Tracking logs had holes in them. Even the most advanced systems in the world seemed to have missed the most important hours. The people thought it was a secret. To experts, it looked like an accident that led to sabotage, but people who were paying attention thought it was done on purpose, like someone or something didn't want people to look too closely. The object stayed perfectly stable during its collision with Mars, according to the little information that was left over. No changes, no sudden bursts, not a tail. It just kept going. Smooth, quiet, and exact. The ESA team confirmed that the ionized cloud was still there, glowing slightly and refusing to go away in any of the simulations they ran. 7 violations of nature. When 3I Atlas drifted past Mars, even the most cautious experts had to agree that something very strange was happening. With each new thing that was seen, more confusion grew, and soon there was only quiet doubt. 1 strange thing could be ignored, 2 could just be a chance. But 7 broke the line between being in charge and being in chaos. Its sheer size was the first sign that something was wrong. 3I/A/TLAS is more like a mountain going through space than a rock. It weighs about 73 trillion pounds. When comets heat up and release gas, that gas usually works like a small rocket engine and sends them off course. But this one wouldn't move. It moved in a straight line, as if unseen hands were holding it steady. That stable, it would need either an impossibly dense inside or active stabilizing, which has never been seen in a natural object. The next strange thing about it was how accurate it was. As 3I Atlas moved through the solar system, it almost exactly lined up with the ecliptic plane.
There is just this one spot from which there is a massive light that's emitting out,
Which is the flat disk where all the planets orbit the sun. The tilt was only 5 degrees, which is so straight that the chances of it happening by chance are less than 1 in 500,000. This is exactly the path you would take if you were making a survey probe that could look at several worlds at once. 1 pass, several flybys, and the most data possible. That's not how nature optimizes. Engineers do it. That was when the light came into the picture. That stubborn, impossible light. Scientists found negative polarization when they looked at how sunlight bounced off its surface. This had never been seen before. The light wasn't going where it should have. It didn't spread out among the fluffy dust particles. Instead, it turned back on itself, which suggests the surface could be metallic, crystalline, or even purposely structured. The results pointed to materials that change light, not the kind that naturally floats between stars. It looked like the object was wearing a mask because the way it reflected light made it hard to tell what it was made of. The storm from the sun then came. A coronal mass ejection shot out from the sun on September the 25th, 2025, and hit 3I Atlas straight on. Comets smaller than this one have been broken up by storms like this, leaving behind bright tails and broken pieces. But observations made a few days later showed that nothing had changed. Not a flare, nothing broke. I got no response at all. There was no sign of the blast at all. The object didn't even blink as it was hit by one of the strongest solar winds ever seen. Either it was made of something much stronger than rock, or the forces that protect it are ones we don't fully understand yet. Then came its chemical mark, which made the puzzle even tougher. The spectra showed that the comets normally have cyanide and carbon monoxide, but the ratios were totally off. The world around them was more like the thin air on Mars than the frozen chemicals of deep space. And that means this thing may not have been born in an icy cosmic cradle, but may have been thrown out from the surface of a planet a long time ago. If it's true, it wasn't a wanderer from nowhere. It was a visitor who had a place to go, and maybe even a reason for going. Then experts looked at its size and brightness. A long shape wrapped in a misty shell of ionized gas was seen by equipment from the European Space Agency. It wasn't round like most comets, but it was stretched out, thin and symmetrical, making it look like a boat. It didn't reflect light like ice or stone did either. It flickered in a way that wasn't natural. It looked like panels or smooth layers, not rough rock. As they got closer, it looked more like something that was made than something that was formed. Lastly, there was the way it had been traveling. In October 2025, 3I Atlas crossed the surface of Mars. In March 2026, it was planned to get close to Jupiter. Each meeting almost perfectly matched the time of the planet's orbits, like a mathematically planned sequence. What are the chances that all of these pairings will happen by themselves? If that's true, if this visitor was really made, then the question isn't what it is, but why it came here. Because the way it is lined up, the time it is visible, and the fact that it is quiet all point to something even scarier waiting just outside of Jupiter's orbit. The final debate. With 7 traits that were thought to be impossible now proven, experts split into 2 groups. The naturalists are one group that thinks 3I Atlas could still be nature's work, a huge cosmic seed left over from when planets were formed. According to Dr. Suzanne Fner's model, these kinds of huge rocky cores could move between star systems and help young suns form new worlds.
Every measurement we take pushes the boundaries of what should be naturally possible.
If it's true, 3I Atlas would be a piece of the universe's early history and proof that planets are reused in the same way that trees spread seeds. Another group, led by thinkers such as Avi Loeb, however, sees a much stranger truth. Maybe it's not even a seed, but a machine. Comets are common, cold, and safe, so they would be the best disguise for a civilization that wants to explore the galaxy without being seen. A stealth ship could drift for millions of years and collect data while its surface is shaped to look like it belongs on the surface. It makes sense that the object is perfectly lined up with the ecliptic plane by 5 degrees. That's the best way to see several planets at once. Loeb's calculations show that 3I Atlas came in from exactly the direction where alien scientists could have seen Earth pass in front of the Sun, which is the same way we find exoplanets. The person who sent it would already know which planet had living things on it. If it was launched a long time ago, it may now be doing a planned study while quietly watching the world it found. If this story blew your mind, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more cosmic mysteries. And now, click the next video popping up on your screen to keep exploring the unknown.